Phantom Beast. Three-legged golden crow, plus, Pseudo Sword Hero, plus, large organization leader, plus, Hokage Skill. Although I am greedy, lascivious, tongue-biting, and vengeful, rest assured that Hess is definitely a good person. Crossing the world of pirates, as long as you spend money, you can become stronger. Navy. Pirates. How much money can a group of poor people have? So, Hess started from an undercover Baroque studio, stabbed Old Sha in the back, became the boss, and was granted the title of Grand Duke of Baroque in Alabastian. He is the executor of justice. Baroque Grand Duke in the eyes of the pirate, he is the strongest combat force of the uncrowned underground emperor and the 7 martial seas under the king. The Duke of the Sun has crossed it off, the Blood Duke, and the 5th emperor of the sea in the eyes of the Navy. He is a powerful foreign aid that can be obtained with just a few $billions, and every appearance fee causes a heart attack in the Warring States period on the Ghost Island. The epidemic stricken Quinn flattered wildly. Kaiduo punched his face and angrily said, "Hiko, you can flatter me too, just flatter me." On the Mobbedic, Hesse Bird's face is arrogant. "I'm a full-level veterinarian, isn't it? A full-level doctor only costs 10 billion yuan to treat Whitebeard's illness. You've made a fortune, okay." So during the war, Red Dog faced the Whitebeard of its heyday, wanting to cry without tears. Can't take it, he really can't take it. 5-speed road flying. The sun god Nika. You deserve it too. Let's see what the true sun is. Hess transforms into a scorching sun, and his bird face is filled with invincibility. Later, what is the experience of using the sun god fire of the 3-legged golden crow of the phantom beast species combined with fire escape ninjutsu? Immortal Mode with 8 Dun Armors Imm. If I give this punch, don't cry. Chapter 1. 3-legged golden crow. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What stands before you now is the uncrowned king of all nations. The divine god who governs all races. The tomb digger of the Tianlong people. The only person in the World Federation who speaks. The golden emperor of the age of pirates. Hess. The crowd was surging and exuberant, and everyone became the most fanatical admirer, shouting the name of Hess. The cheers that gathered together almost overturned the sky. Hesse stood proudly on the golden castle, overlooking the 80 million dog legs below. Raise your arms and shout, the group of dogs responds. Squeak. A bitter sound sounded, and the door bolt that had not been maintained for many years turned. Hess, sitting in the shadow of the warehouse, woke up from his slumber with a stirring sound. Gone. I even had a dream in these 20 minutes, it's just too realistic. Hess cursed inwardly, while standing up and moving his limbs. He wanted to circulate the blood to prevent numbness in his hands and feet. After all, what was about to be done was not a safe task. Dead ghost, don't be so anxious. Her charming voice carries a strong sense of teasing, and just by listening to her voice, one can imagine being a seductive little fairy. Dancer Lottie walked into this dilapidated warehouse with a delicate smile, her slender waist swaying like a weak willow breeze. The strong man with a beard behind her was about to stare out, rubbing his hands and smiling like a pig. Pop. Lottie slapped off her buttocks, glanced casually at the layout of the warehouse, and walked towards where Hess was hiding. Hee 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 hee. The bearded man didn't take it seriously and placed his hand under his nose to take a deep breath. The residual body odor made the corners of his mouth roll back to his head. That's it here. Just a wall away from Hess, Lottie turned around and stopped, fixed her gaze on her beard, her eyes seemingly flickering with a strong spring vibe. Hee 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 hee, little beauty, today I will definitely let you support the wall and go out. The bearded man who has been wandering on the sea for years has never had such an affair. He has no other worries about his blood essence, and he is eager to take off his pants. At this moment, with his beard facing away from Hess, Lottie immediately dodged and retreated. Halfway down his bearded pants, he looked at Lottie's back in confusion, still unsure of what had happened. Bang! The firelight burst from the muzzle, and a bullet pierced through the chest of the beard. Bang bang bang. Hess stood in the shadow, holding a gun in both hands, understanding the essence of American living. He directly emptied his magazine and smashed his beard into a sieve. Watching blood gather in patches and the bearded face lose any sound, Hess slowly lowered his musket and drew a dagger from his waist, striking the bearded face twice on each side of his chest. "Thank you, Brother A.O. Can I borrow your head for a while? Do you have any objections?" Hess squatted down and patted the bearded shoulder, asking in a gentle tone, perhaps a social terrorist. The bearded person remained silent and had no objections, and Hess could only assume that he agreed by default. "Who? Get the work done." After finishing all of this, Hess took out a handkerchief and wiped the bloodstains on his hands. "Can't you make it look more beautiful every time it's so bloody?" Upon hearing Hess's voice, Lottie slowly walked out from the side, with a hint of teasing in her teasing tone. "What kind of beauty is needed to kill someone? As long as your face can recognize it, it won't delay receiving the reward." Hess didn't mind and continued, "I'll send you your portion tomorrow." "Hee, this is a big fish worth 2 million Baileys. Sister, taking such a big risk, still feels a bit scared. I don't believe you can touch it, how fast my heart beats." Lottie clung tightly to Hess like a kitten, grabbed his hand, and placed it on her 33D. "All right, I'll give you a 20% commission this time." Hess's lips trembled imperceptibly, making her soft to touch. This time, she should be given more money, as there was enough money left to activate the system on her own. After speaking, Hess pulled out his slippery right hand, cut off his bearded head, and put it in a burlap bag. He walked out of the warehouse without looking back. When have you figured it out? You can come find your sister, and she will be doing voluntary labor for a child chicken." Lottie smiled coquettishly behind her, her seductive eyes filled with the words, "cannibalistic." It's no wonder Lottie is tempted. Hess, who is 1.9 meters tall, coupled with his sharp muscles that cut off women but not men, makes her fantasize about the smell of being bumped into every night. Stepping out of the warehouse, the scorching sun unique to the desert shone on Hess's face. Light and shadow intertwined, reflecting Hess's handsome face as if it were a sun god. Arabana, as the capital of the world power Alabastian, also has a naval branch headquarters. Even in the event of civil unrest, the naval branch maintains basic operations. Hess did not spend much effort and received a bounty of 1.9 million belly, of which 100,000 were red envelopes for naval leaders. After all, he's just an ordinary person now and doesn't have the confidence to provoke the Navy. System recharge of 1.5 million Belize. Leave the 400,000 yuan allocated to Lotte, and Hess will directly top up the remaining bounty. Ding! Recharged successfully. The current balance is 10 million, which meets the activation system requirements. Do you want to activate it? Activate. Hess immediately answered in his mind, and then he returned to the abandoned warehouse, excitedly waiting for the arrival of the golden finger. It has been 19 years since he broke the ball, and he finally saved up 10 million belly to activate the system, most of which were contributed by the unscrupulous pirates who did good deeds. At the beginning, Hess was not interested in the activation conditions of 10 million belly. Steal a few randomly? No, borrowing money from several companies can make up for it, but later Hess discovered through personal practice that stolen money cannot be recharged into the system, and even stolen money cannot be recharged. This made Hess think for a moment that this system might not have some serious mental cleanliness disorder. Later on, Hess slowly figured out the pattern, where the income from working could be recharged, and the reward for killing the bounty offender could also be recharged. It is impossible to work as a laborer. In his previous life, he had enough work and now he can become a member of the crossing army. Of course, Hess's goal is to be isolated. But he is just a commoner, unable to hold on to his thighs, and his golden fingers have not been credited. He can only pick some small shrimp and slowly save money. Fortunately, today we have finally taken the first step and activated the system. In Hesse's hopeful gaze, a brand new system interface appeared before his eyes, and his mind was all attracted by a fruit in his hand. Ding! System activation completed. Reward animal series, bird fruit, phantom animal species, three-legged golden crow. Surrounded by a crimson glow, the demon fruit in Hesse's hand was like a dragon fruit from a previous life, but it was all red, like a peerless jade. Hess knew that this was the ladder of his progress and the path to strength. Without hesitation in his heart, Hess took a bite and the juice overflowed. Ouch! The strong and pungent smell rushed straight to the sky, and Hess felt his stomach constantly churning, but he endured nausea and took another bite. This is worse than shit. In the midst of continuous retching, Hess finished eating the fruit with a fierce expression on his face, and the indescribable taste still lingered in his mouth. A scorching and powerful aura began to slowly erupt around Hess. Chapter 2. Dad Kahn. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A hot current instantly penetrated Hesse's entire body, and a crimson scorching aura rippled half a meter around his body. At the same time, the ability of devil fruit constantly appeared in his brain. Just like eagles spreading their wings and soaring, fish swimming for thousands of miles. The fruit's ability is directly imprinted in Hesse's biological instincts, as if it were born to be known. After learning about crossing the world of pirates, Hess always had a sense of urgency, but no matter how much he exercised, his physical fitness could surpass that of an ordinary person by 3 times. Effort determines the lower limit, while talent determines the upper limit. Hess didn't know if it was Lu Xun's words, but he really saw his own ceiling clearly. No matter how ordinary humans were trained, they could not become monsters like Kapu. And now everything is different. After eating the devil's fruit, Hess saw several jumping up numbers on the system panel. 374, 1758. 7834, 13756. These numbers, representing the basic physical fitness, made Hess tremble with every beat, and the extreme pleasure brought by the evolution of life made Hess almost moan. Sure enough, hard work is not as satisfying as cheating. The flames of the sun enveloped Hess, and his entire being ignited. The constantly surging power made his confidence expand unprecedentedly. Finally, after crossing the threshold of 10,000 levels, the jumping numbers slowly stopped. Hess then carefully looked at the system panel and saw that the light screen clearly read. Host. Hess Race. Human Force. 15,791 Body. 18,553 Intelligence. 11,469 Skills. Pistol LV2, Reconnaissance LV1, Mouth Cannon LV1, Veterinary LV1. Devil Fruit. Animal Series, Bird Fruit, Phantom Beast Species, Three-Legged Golden Crow, Unawakened, Dominance. Seeing and Hearing Color, not activated, Armed Color, not activated, Domineering Color, not activated, Note. A good pistol can make life worry-free, but at your age, it's important to exercise restraint. Ignoring the system's evaluation, Hess was also somewhat surprised to see his 3-dimensional attributes. As is well known, the ultimate strength of an ordinary human is 100 points, and it took Hess over a decade of brutal training to make his strength exceed 300. And now, just eating the devil's fruit, even the rarest phantom beast species, can directly increase their physical fitness by 100 times, which is a bit exaggerated. Of course, Hess naturally won't have any dissatisfaction. He longed to have the strength to punch Kaido and step on Kapu now. He would like to wander around and beat IMM in the flower world when he has free time. He also wants to sit on the Void Throne and give it a try. Since all the systems are in place, what's the point of using cheats, let alone being delayed for more than a decade? Jia. The system is beeping, hurry up, give me another beep, let me feel more refreshed. Hess laughed heartily, with his hands on his hips, feeling that the world had come to life and that his strength had made a qualitative leap. Only in the future can he let birds soar and fish leap on the vast sea. System. The system did not want to deal with Hess and closed his display interface. Hess was also indifferent and ignited flames in his hand, eager to try out the various abilities of the three-legged golden crow. As he waved his arm, a flame curtain fell, causing the temperature inside the dilapidated warehouse to rapidly rise. The metal began to melt, and the rocky ground was scorched and baked into a crystal-clear glass state. The metal ceiling of the warehouse flowed and dripped like liquid. Just standing in such a fiery hell would cause permanent and irreversible physical damage. Sure enough, even dogs don't eat roasted fruits. Seeing that it was only his own ability that could produce such an effect, Hess was satisfied but still didn't forget to step on Ace's roasted fruit. In the early stages, there were various boastings, but in the later stages, everyone was able to play the game of ignition. Three-legged golden crow, now. With Hess's loud roar, the scorching heat instantly engulfed his body, only existing in the ancient divine Jinwu, now reappearing in this dilapidated warehouse. Don't ask why you call your name when using skills. There is no reason to keep silent when fighting against the landlord, Rocket. The golden-black wingspan spans several tens of meters, with scattered sparks surrounding its body. Each flame is like a miniature sun, containing unimaginable terrifying heat. It is like the incarnation of flames, completely devoid of substance. Even the lifelike feathers on its wings are condensed from incredibly pure flames. As the top mythical bird, the power of the three-legged golden crow is extraordinary. Even if Gao Yuantian's 30 million grass-head god were tied together, it might not be enough for the three-legged golden crow to kill. Of course, Hess is still a billion points away from the level of that mythological legend. And at this moment, he was staring at his three legs several meters long under his body, with a strange light flashing in his eyes. I already have 3 legs, which is a bit thinner than my original one. This is fraud and does not match the actual product. The system should come out quickly and adjust it for me. Hess became more rational and straightforward, with a bird-like face that was simply detestable. System. Heart-tired and eager to change host, do your colleagues have any suggestions? For men, they are both innocent and fickle. They always love beautiful girls of 18 years old, and they love every beautiful girl of 18 years old. Finally, after the sweetness and freshness, a dull and tasteless feeling surged in their hearts. Hess recovered and walked home, swinging his third leg. Passing by the tavern, Hess thought for a moment and pushed the door open. The man's sweat mixed with the aroma of malt rushed in. Yo, it's been a long time since we last met. I'll have a glass of wheat juice and charge it to my account. I have something else to do today, I will definitely do it next time. Hess, my cousin's third aunt's daughter has a crush on you. Do you want me to be a matchmaker? Don't worry, I won't take your money. Come on, your relative weighs 1.5300 pounds. I don't want to press F to enter the tank. Hess shuttled between the tables, as if returning home, greeting everyone with familiarity. As the capital of Alabastian, the precipitation problem has not had a significant impact on Arabana, and even with the ravages of rebel forces, the people here can still enjoy safety and stability. But Hess knew that soon Old Sha would launch the ideal village plan, and the rebel army would also attack the city. The strongest second-generation Wang Lufei will also come here, defeat the first 7 martial Cs, and become a new pirate star, while Ace will be defeated by Blackbeard, becoming a stepping stone for him to seek the position of 7 martial Cs, laying the groundwork for the top war. However, these have nothing to do with his Hess. He just wants to make more money now and become the strongest. Boss, what's the most expensive desert pearl? Give me a bottle and the rest is a tip. Hess pulled open a stool and sat directly on it. He shook his hand and took out the remaining 100,000 Baileys and directly patted them on the table, emphasizing that they were not short of money. As the most expensive drink in a tavern, the Desert Pearl costs 99,800 yuan per bottle, which is something that Hess would never be willing to give up on. However, today when you open the golden finger, you must celebrate with your dad. This father is not the strongest man in the world, Edward Newgate with a white beard, but Hess's adoptive father. When Hess traveled, his body was only a 4-year-old child with no ability to survive independently, but fortunately, this elderly widower named Kahn adopted him and worked 3 jobs alone, which allowed Hess to grow up smoothly. Speaking of Kahn's 3-part job, Hess still finds it unbelievable, which are Baroque Studio Million Elders, the scouts of the Catalan rebels entering Arabana, the Revolutionary Army is buried in the darkness of Alabastian, and retired veterans from the Alabastian Kingdom Guard. Chapter 3. Celebration. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It's reasonable to receive 4 salaries for 3 jobs. When they first learned about Kahn's complex identity, even the Hesse people were foolish. It's not so outrageous to eat all 4 fish, right? If one day Kahn is gone, Hess doesn't even know which company to seek revenge against. Fortunately, to this day, Kahn still finds himself in a comfortable position among various factions, and there is even a growing trend of receiving more attention, promotion, and salary increases. And now Hess no longer needs to hide under the old man's wings. He also grew up to be a formidable figure that people couldn't underestimate, and more importantly, the possibility of constantly growing stronger truly cleared Hess of the gloom in his heart, yearning for that vast world. The old man loves wine and is usually reluctant to buy expensive ones. Today, Hess decided to indulge himself once. Unexpectedly, the tavern owner did not take the money and instead said with a strange expression, "What's going on? The rebels have been causing more and more trouble lately. The big boss said a few days ago that it's becoming increasingly difficult to get drinks in, so now there are 16,881 bottles of Desert Pearl." Looking at Hess, whose face looked ugly, the tavern owner quickly continued. "However, I still believe in your credibility, Hess. You can take it first and then make up for the remaining money later. Just don't wait too long, otherwise the big boss will find it difficult during the audit." After speaking, the owner of the tavern directly opened the bottom cabinet and took out a crystal-polished bottle. The crystal-clear liquor inside shook and a faint aroma of wine permeated. Hess is also a familiar customer here, and he is not indifferent to the boss. He weighed the weight of the Desert Pearl and smiled at the boss, saying, "Thank you. I will make up for it for you this week. If it's more expensive, then it's more expensive." With his current strength, he can easily kill a few tens of millions of pirates and earn a small amount of money. Walking on the streets of Arabana, with a bustling crowd, filled with desert-themed decorations, fruits, and clothing, all kinds of shouting can be heard endlessly. The disaster in this country seems to be isolated from the high walls and cannot reach here. At a corner, Hess suddenly looked up. Not far away, the door of the dance hall was faintly visible, so I changed my way and planned to go to Lottie's house earlier to cash in her 400,000 yuan share. After all, this place is not far from her home. Dong dong dong. Who is it? It's me, Hess. Hess stood in front of the door and could clearly hear the footsteps approaching inside. The door opened with a creaking sound, and the sweet and fragrant scent unique to women suddenly spread. "Oh, why are you looking for your sister? Come on in." Lottie's hair was curled up high, with a hint of wet droplets. Perhaps due to just taking a shower, her cheeks still had redness and a wave of seductive eyes. Leading Hess to sit down, Lottie's loose pajamas revealed 2 protruding points, and as she bent down to bring a cup of tea, Hess was even more impressed by the towering mountains. "I gave you a share of 400,000, and I happened to bring it over on the way." Hess picked up the tea and said in a muffled voice. "Cluck, next time there's such a good thing, why don't you come find your sister again?" Taking Bailey, Lottie's smile became even brighter as she sat down against Hess. The thin layer of clothing didn't stop her at all, and Hess could even feel a soft lump sliding down her arm. The hem of the shirt can cover up to the thighs, with two plump and slender legs overlapping. The elusive valley attracted visitors to explore its depth, and Hess's intuition told him that the woman was in a vacuum. "That's it, I'll contact you next time I have something to do." After drinking the tea in one gulp, Hess slightly arched his waist, trying to hold down his gun, and quickly dodged away from the wire hole. Behind him, Lottie watched Hess's slightly disheveled figure, laughing uncontrollably. It's not that he has a mental cleanliness obsession and looks down on these physical workers. Lottie's figure and appearance are also a somewhat famous flower in the Arabana dance girls circle, and many people fantasize about having a spring night with her every night. Just the first car in life, Hess still wants a brand new and unopened one. Even if Lottie's luxury car has a smooth waistline, bright headlights, wider hips than her shoulders, and surpasses Immortal's. Even if she forcefully steps on the accelerator, she is completely at ease as she has already passed the break-in period. The fully automatic driving mode has an excellent driving experience, which will definitely make car owners love it. Hesse's first car was to want a new one. Even though the road was bumpy and the water output was scarce, Hess still didn't change his original intention and wanted a new car. The conversation was divided into two parts, and there was a delay at Lottie's house for a while. When Hess walked to his second-floor small building, the sky had turned into a deep blue. In this city without light pollution, looking up could see the brilliant stars. The small building is not big, and the total area is only about 200 square meters. Decades of time and companionship have made it the softest place in Hesse's heart. A warm orange light shone from the window on the first floor, and Hess standing at the door could already smell the aroma of the food. Pushing open the door, one can see the extremely clean living room, which is completely different from the residence of two men. There are also several green plants growing freely in the corner, and a table and a few chairs make up all the furniture on the first floor. Hesse's gaze swept over, and half of the dining table was filled with intelligence, mixed with a hint of order. Kahn was sitting there with glasses on, analyzing each item one by one. On the other half of the dining table, there were two plates of small dishes still emitting heat neatly arranged. This former King's Army veteran, who appears to be $1 million elder in Baroque studios and secretly also serves as an anti-rebel scout and maintains contact with the Revolutionary Army, is Hess' adoptive father, Kahn. "I'm back, get ready to eat." Kahn didn't lift his head and casually said, as he was analyzing the intelligence. His brain quickly pondered which forces should know which information, while also ensuring that his identity was not exposed. Hess once asked Kahn, who exactly is he with so many identities? "Whoever wins, I'll stand for him." Kahn didn't think about it, but his answer was very straightforward. Hess also felt that this was the truth. They were visionary, although they were in the dark, they always had a heart for the light. As for who this light was, they were naturally from the victorious side. Hess sat at the table, not speaking, and directly pulled open the cork of the Desert Pearl. A rich and fragrant aroma of wine immediately filled the entire room. What kind of smell? Kahn's nose twitched and he looked at the wine bottle on the table in surprise, then turned around and ran to the kitchen to take out 2 cups. Wow, the wine poured down like the Milky Way, falling into the cup. Kahn took a deep and intoxicated sniff, drank it lightly, and couldn't help but pat his thigh, sighing, "Expensive things are good. On what day today, how could you be willing to buy such good wine? Killed a big fish, celebrating today." Bang dang. The door was suddenly rudely kicked open, and Hesse's words were interrupted. Chapter 4. My son has the posture of a general. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hess and Kahn coincidentally put down their glasses and looked at the person at the door. I saw a man wearing a black tailcoat and a mustache slowly approaching, holding a blazing knife with flame-like patterns in his hand. Oh my, Mr. 11 is really a rare guest. Hurry up, hurry up. Coincidentally, there is a bottle of good wine today. Please also taste it. Kahn's pupils contracted slightly, and a smile immediately appeared on his face. Years of struggling have made him smell an unusual smell. I'm afraid the person who came today is not kind. But facing the senior conductor with a codename in Baroque Studios, he still wanted to do his best to resolve the conflict. After all, he was just a low-level millionaire elder, and Mr. 11 was already an unattainable figure in daily life. Humph. Mr. 11 didn't even glance at Kahn and let out a cold snort from his nostrils, pointing his knife at Hess. I've been watching you kill that pirate today for a long time, but I didn't expect you to take the lead. This way, I'm not an unreasonable person. If you hand over his reward, I can leave you 100,000 Bailey's worth of hard work. Oh, it's all spent. Hess raised his eyelids slightly, and his indifferent posture deeply hurt Mr. 11's fragile self-esteem. You seek death. Mr. 11 was furious and took a step forward, fiercely chopping Hua Zhou towards Hess. Kahn's face suddenly changed, and he quickly pulled out his gun from his waist, trying to stop Mr. 11. Hesse was faster, his figure flickered and directly pinched Mr. 11's wrist. With a slight force, he lifted him up into the air like lifting a chick. Bang! Hess hesitated lightly, and the crisp sound of bone fracture sounded. Mr. 11 immediately let out a pig-like scream, and the flower stayed in his hand fell off, slanting into the floor. It's really noisy. The piercing scream made Hess furrow his brow slightly. This mixed fish had no desire to force him, and a burst of flames erupted in his hand. Mr. 11 was instantly ignited into a human-shaped torch, only to turn into ashes in a few seconds. You actually killed Mr. 11. Go to hell with me. A middle-aged woman at the door had a face full of fear, trembling as she raised her gun and aimed it at Hess without hesitation, pulling the trigger. Bang! With a flash of firelight at the muzzle, the bullet was propelled by the powerful kinetic energy of the burning gunpowder and flew towards Hess. It's really troublesome. Hess let out a light sigh, and a spark popped out of his fingertips, like a meteor passing by. After destroying the bullet, the remaining force continued to penetrate the body of the middle-aged woman Miss Thursday. The flames at the wound quickly engulfed her whole body, and Mississippi Thursday took only 2 steps back amidst screams before turning into a handful of ashes. You. Hess, this is. Kahn still held a musket in his hand, his eyes wide open and his mouth wide open and closed, but he couldn't say a complete sentence. From Mr. 11 breaking through the door to both of them dying. He was completely stunned by this series of unexpected events, including lightning and flint. Of course he knows his own kid well, he is indeed quite strong compared to ordinary people, but it's good to be able to escape when facing the senior conductor of Baroque Studios. How could he kill the 2 people so easily and impressively? Hess also has a headache. How should he explain to his father about such a sudden increase in strength? That, Dad. Hess was frantically organizing language in his brain, trying to find a more easily accepted argument, but suddenly saw Kahn laughing wildly with his waist around. Ha ha ha, my son has the talent of a great general. Not bad, we don't have to live like this every day with our heads and waist tied up. I saw Kahn's face rosy and full of vitality, with a relaxed expression on his old face that had never been seen before. Hurry up. This kind of good day should be celebrated, keep drinking. Kahn sat down on the chair and filled himself with a full glass, squinting his eyes to enjoy the joy in his heart. Dad, don't you wonder why I suddenly became stronger? Kahn's appearance really messed up Hess. He had imagined his father being shocked and panicked, but never expected such a reaction. He pulled out his chair and sat down, then filled Kahn with a glass. Hey, old man, I've never seen anything at my age. It's a devil's fruit, right? Only this magical fruit can bring such a big change in a short time. Kahn spoke in a relaxed and emotional tone, this is your luck. I heard that a devil's fruit on the black market is priced at least 100 million belly. Born in this chaotic world, having no power is even a luxury. The old man, I have saved my whole life's money just to buy you one before I die. If you become stronger, I can leave with peace of mind. Hess was stunned and his nose suddenly soured. He had never heard the old man mention these things before. In fact, with 3 jobs and 4 identities, the old man earns a lot of money on a daily basis, but their lives are still poor. It turns out that the old man has been silently considering himself. But it's not necessary now. Putting down his glass, Kahn had never laughed so easily before. Seeing Hess remain silent, he couldn't help but joke, you're not going to be moved and cry, are you? Before he could finish speaking, Kahn couldn't help but burst out laughing. I'm crying my butt, it's because Aruba's sandstorms are too blinding. How could Hess possibly admit that as they drank one glass after another, the two of them switched glasses, and soon Kahn became slightly intoxicated. Wine is a matchmaker, and as Kahn spoke more and more, he suddenly stood up unsteadily and walked towards the door after drinking. Hess looked at the old man in confusion, unsure of what he was going to do. Bang! A wooden board at the door was lifted by the old man, and Kahn reached in and pulled out a box. With a drunken and wandering tone, he said, "This is the money I have saved for my whole life, probably over 60 million yuan. It will be yours from now on." Before Hess could be moved, the old man continued. "I'm happy today. The old man will take you to the largest dance hall in Aruba to have a meat feast. We'll have 3 fights each." Hiccup. After listening to Hess, his head was covered in black lines. This old man is really drifting away. He still remembers his original intention at such an old age. If he wants to fight 3 of them, he's afraid that even one is enough. And after Kahn finished speaking, there was already a deafening snoring sound, lying on the ground with all fours and murmuring something in his mouth. Hess breathed a sigh of relief, and the 2 of them carried their guns together, which was a bit too explosive for him. He picked up his father, placed him on the bed, and poured a cup of warm water at the head of his bed before returning to his own room. Lying in bed, he propped his arms and looked out at the starry sky, with plans for the future in his mind. Chapter 5. Promotion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next morning, Hess arrived at the living room and found Kahn wearing glasses, carefully studying the equipment long sword that was exposed yesterday at Mr. 11. After pouring himself a cup of warm water, Hess walked over and proactively reminded him, "This is Huazhou, one of the 50 skilled craftsmen of Liangquai knife. As a qualified navigator, foresight is certainly one of the essential basic qualities, but unfortunately, before Hess broke through from a young age, the Oda thieves had not been updated to the end. Sabo escaped from the flowers and Shanks became Shanks Saint, which was the final progress he watched, and he never had a chance to catch up with the rest of the plot. In the original work, Mr. 11 was captured by Smog, and his flower state fell into the hands of Daki. It's indeed a good and fast knife. Let me use it for you. I'm an old bone, so don't go to melee and fight to the death." Kahn took off his glasses and handed the flower state to Hess. Ever since he found out that Hess had eaten the devil's fruit, his tense nerves have relaxed a lot. He has changed his previous aggressive personality and started wanting to fish and paddle in his work. Hess took Huazhou and waved it twice casually, but the weight of about 10 pounds was still too light for him. However, the fiery patterns of the burning knives above appear exceptionally magnificent, and as a temporary weapon, they do not appear shabby. In the previous days, Hess did not focus on practicing swordsmanship. After all, for a limited guy like him who is stronger than ordinary people, American living quarters are more lethal. But now with the devil's fruit, ordinary firearms no longer pose a threat to Hess, and his mind began to fluctuate. It doesn't matter whether the great swordsman is strong or not. But being handsome is really handsome. After all, strength is only temporary, handsome is lifelong. Hess quickly decided that he would also develop towards a great swordsman in the future. With the Krypton gold system in hand, as long as the money was enough, his swordsmanship would soon crush Eagle Eyes. Oh, by the way. Kahn suddenly spoke up, I have already reported your killing of Mr. 11 to my superiors. They have decided that you will take over Mr. 11's position and continue his work. Who is this superior? Mississippi. All Sunday, Vice President of Baroque Studios. Hess's face visibly collapsed, and the first opportunity to deal with Princess Robin flew away. In the entire pirate plot, Hess's favorite character is Queen Robin. When Alabastian first appeared, she was still ordinary, but 2 years later, Luo Yujia was really pure and lustful. Coupled with her dark personality and excellent clothing, she was the undisputed pirate beauty in Hess' heart, and Boya Hancock and everything else had to be sidelined. Oh, and also because you killed Mr. 11's partner, Baroque Studios has found a new partner for you, codenamed Mississippi Wednesday, probably coming to see you today. Kahn completely ignored Hess's feelings and continued, the lower-ranked executive commanders usually need to lead their staff to raise funds at the entrance of the Great Route. You shouldn't be able to stay in Aruba anymore. I have only one requirement when going out, old man. At this point, Kahn looked at Hess with a burning and serious gaze and said, everything is about saving lives. After seeing Hess nodded solemnly in agreement, Kahn patted Hess on the shoulder with satisfaction and turned to throw a bag of Bailey on the table. Take it, save some of my savings, he said. Although they have no blood relationship, Kahn really supported Hess like his biological father. Time is like this, and now it's the same. I'll take 30 million, you better save the rest. These are enough. Hess had slightly red eyes and a slightly hoarse voice, pretending to be calm. Taking half of it was because Hess had enough money to further enhance his strength, while keeping the other half was also for the worst-case scenario. If he really died outside, this money would be enough to allow Kahn to enjoy his later years. In fact, according to the definition of the system, only the money obtained from transactions can be recharged, while the money gifted cannot be recharged. Kahn and Hess do not have a father-son relationship by blood. In the system judgment, it is believed that the money earned by Kahn is partly contributed by Hess, because without Hess, Kahn would have lost his belief in survival on the brink of death, and he may have died in a corner now, so naturally he cannot earn this part of the money. These were also some things that Hess later realized when he realized that the gift proceeds could not be recharged. He lived because of Kahn's adoption, and Kahn struggled out of hell time and time again because of his existence. Without hesitation, Hess silently recharged, and 30 million belly transformed into a strange energy rushing into the system. Ding! Recharge has reached 30 million Bailey. Activate armed color dominance, activate visible color dominance, and activate swordsmanship skills. Hess pondered in his heart and chose the 3 skills he believed would be the most helpful to him at present. Armed color defense, seeing and hearing color avoidance, and swordsmanship attack. The combination of these 3 skills can comprehensively enhance his combat power. In the first half of the Great Voyage, his skill configuration is completely sufficient as long as he does not encounter some monster bosses. In the pricing of the Krypton gold system, activating any skill costs 10 million yuan, and only activating the domineering color and aura costs 100 million yuan. All skills are divided into 9 levels. The first 5 levels require 100 million to be upgraded each time, while the last 4 levels require 1 billion. The domineering aura is 10 times higher than ordinary skills every time it is upgraded. Since there is a system that can earn money, of course, the lottery function is indispensable. Just one draw alone costs 1 million Pele, and only 100 consecutive draws can guarantee a guaranteed big prize. Poor Hess is very confident in his non-chieftain physique, and he dare not be so reckless in his dreams when he hits the soul. Now it's more suitable for him to add some honestly. Ding! The armed color dominance has been activated. Ding! Seeing and hearing the color dominance has been activated. The system rang twice in a row, but then fell silent. Hess. Are you missing a ding in the system? What about my swordsmanship skills? System. Hello. Just give it a little more, I actually spent 10 million on it. Hess's roar shook the heart, and the silence of the system was deafening. After a long time, the system seemed to have just crashed and restarted, slowly emerging with a line of words. Ding. After testing, the host does not have any swordsmanship talent and cannot be activated. If you still insist on activation, you need to recharge 1,000,000,000 Bailey. A long string of zeros made Hess dizzy, and after counting several times, he finally confirmed that it was 1 trillion belly. 1 trillion. Why don't you TND grab it? Oh, there's no such thing as a quick money grab. Hess exploded directly, exporting various national treasures at his fingertips, fully utilizing the traditional artistic abilities of Zuan athletes. If he were to curse, there would also be a rank. At this moment, Hess firmly believed that he was definitely on par with Li Bai in the poetry world. Chapter 6. Guaranteed 10 consecutive draws. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hee. Hess hugged his shoulders and sneered coldly. It was possible that 10 million would just float in the water, and his mood couldn't calm down. Also, what does it mean to not have any swordsmanship talent? What? He is still practicing a mage number and cannot equip a long sword. If you want to say he's useless, just say it directly. The way he scolds people is so tactful, and Hess truly expresses admiration. The system screen flickered for a while before stabilizing, and a thoughtful explanation line appeared on top. Ding. This system can enhance any ability of the host to the extreme, from 1 to 10,000 from 100 to 10,000 are no different for the system. However, the host's swordsmanship talent is 0, and breaking through from 0 to 1 requires a lot of energy, so the amount required for this activation is slightly higher. Hess. Degree, I lift the table. What kind of thing? Do you call 1 trillion slightly higher? This TM is called outrageously high. Hess felt a strong sense of malice. This garbage system was really not human, it was just trying to trap his small money. I don't care, it's you who said activating any talent costs 10 million. Either activate my swordsmanship talent or refund me the money. Hess's face was grim and his forehead was bulging with veins. If it weren't for the lack of entity in the system, Gao would have pulled him out and beaten him up. Kahn put down the intelligence in his hand and looked at Hess, his face full of confusion, not knowing how this silly child grinned in the air. Ding. The system has not loaded the refund function. Unable to refund. Ding. The system can compensate for a 10 consecutive draw opportunity at the guaranteed prize level for 100 consecutive draws. When the first line of text appeared, Hess suddenly stood up, unable to suppress his anger. After seeing the second line, Hess silently sat back, rubbing his chin in thought. This compensation plan seemed to be possible, and he was not at a disadvantage. The money cannot be refunded, it can only be spent here in the system. If it were to strengthen physical fitness, 10 million Bailey could only increase one of the three-dimensional attributes by an additional 1,000 points, which would only surpass the average person by 10 times. But now he has all attributes over 10,000, adding another 1,000 points does not have a significant effect. And by choosing a guaranteed 10 consecutive draws, you can win a guaranteed prize at the level of 100 consecutive draws, saving you 90 million Bailey directly. This wave of blood earned. No non-emirate can refuse a minimum guarantee. Hess is no exception. Devoutly washing his hands, Hess dug out a plate of mosquito-repellent incense and lit it, which can be considered as burning incense and praying. After finishing all of this, Hess returned to his own room and rubbed his hands excitedly, choosing to hit the bottom 10 times. Ding. Oranges rich in vitamin C, 1 is worth 8. Ding. The kitchen knife that has been passed down for thousands of years, with one knife for tetanus, two knives for ancestors. Ding. A bucket of expired pure water is ordinary and unremarkable. This is a paradise for microorganisms. Ding. Thank you for your patronage. Ding. Thank you for your patronage. Ding. Thank you for your patronage. Ding. The storage compartment is open +1, and there is no space for the ring. How can I call it a walkthrough? Ding. Yesterday's brand new newspaper, read more to keep up with current events. Ding. An apple that has been smashed over Newton, with average juice and a slightly sour taste. Ding. Golden legend. Full-level veterinary skills. Why did you catch me? A veterinarian is also a doctor, said a veterinarian who has been helping people treat diseases for decades before being caught looking at what was being pulled out. Hess's face froze, his mouth tilted and his eyes tilted. His hands trembled as if he had Parkinson's disease, and his face looked as if he had been played with. Except for one storage compartment, what other monsters are there? Apples, oranges, water, old newspapers, and a rusty tetanus blade. Sure enough, this world is full of malice towards non-chieftains. Even if it is guaranteed to be crooked, he should not have any illusions. The shining golden light was so glaring to Hess that it was a silent mockery of him. Are skills strong at full level? Strong. His mind is filled with endless knowledge. Even during his peak year of high school, Hess's intelligence was far from comparable to his current state. It's just that this skill point is a bit crooked. The knowledge that fills the brain, including but not limited to postpartum care for sows, production and maintenance of cows, 18 ways of giving birth to sea kings, and 32 precautions for dragon hatching. Hess now feels that as long as there is a living organism outside of humans, he can be saved. Among veterinarians, he is the strongest. Hess. Degree, I who wants this kind of strength. Hess wanted to cry without tears, and now he was looking at his body. His mind couldn't help but think of shoulder meat, tenderloin, upper brain, and spoon handle. Boiling water for 10 seconds tasted the best. This veterinary skill was learned by him when he was a child, following Kahn. It was precisely this skill that helped them get through a difficult time. Originally carrying memories of their family bonds, Hess now only felt full of agony. What should we do? In the future, it will be changed to the strongest veterinarian of pirates. It sounds like there's no noodles. After a while, Hess finally recovered, and the flower stayed in his hand disappeared in an instant before falling out of the air again. The storage compartment is indeed useful, with almost no delay in receiving and releasing. As long as it is an item that Hess comes into contact with, he can easily retract and release it with a single thought. This can also be considered his only comfort. Swordsmanship talent cannot be illuminated, and the plan of the great swordsman is stillborn, but Hess has not completely given up. He chose the path of creating miracles with great force, as the saying goes, as long as his speed is fast enough and his slashes are fierce enough, swordsmanship and other skills are not important at all. You can't even stop me with a single blow, so you deserve to say that my swordsmanship is poor. Pinning Hua Zhou at his waist, Hess's eyes showed a resolute expression, as he insisted on embarking on a unique path as a swordsman. It's just that the levels of armed and visible colors are still too low. Hess sighed in his heart, with his arms stretched out to cover a thin layer of dark armor that exuded a domineering aura. Although the quality was not high, the total amount was also considerable, at least having the power to fight against those with natural abilities. As for the domineering aura of seeing and hearing, Hess can only cover a radius of 100 meters with all his strength. Not to mention that the development of Katakali can predict the future, even Tinghu's kind of extension to outer space and pulling down meteorites is still too far away. But it's okay, save some more money, everything won't be too far away. At this moment, a water blue girl with long hair riding a duck stopped at the entrance of Hess's house. Oh. My partner Mississippi. Is Miss Wednesday really Vivi? Under the domineering aura of seeing and hearing, everything around him couldn't escape Hess's observation. A smile appeared on his lips, and Hess stood up to welcome his partner. Outside the door, Vivi tied her long water blue hair into a high ponytail. Her upper body was a white striped tight-fitting garment that outlined a graceful curve, and her white hot pants made her legs look even more slender. This outfit appeared heroic and confident, with a mix of confusion and determination in her eyes, but she still slowly closed the door. Dong dong dong. Chapter 7. Going to Whiskey Mountain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hello Mr. 11, I am your partner Mississippi. On Wednesday, according to Baroque Studios arrangements, we are going to Whiskey Hill to raise funds. Vivi spoke steadily, striving to make a shrewd and capable appearance. But Hess could sense that Vivi's body was trembling gently, and her hands behind her were also restlessly stirring. After all, she is still a young girl who has not experienced the vicissitudes of society and dares to undercover and enter the enemy's stronghold with just her passion. She was not directly imprisoned by Old Sha, which can be considered lucky. Rather than being naive, it's better to be ignorant. If it weren't for the protagonist aura of Wang Lufei, who was invincible in the early stage of the natural series and only played high-end games, one by one, they would all be lost in the yellow sand. Thinking of this, Hess suddenly realized that it was already the second half of the year 1519 in the Gregorian calendar. In about 6 months, Wang Lufei will be going to sea. At that time, the protagonist group with their own dry rations will come here and start the chapter of Alabastian. However, Hess doesn't care either. The main characters are all poor and there is really no oil or water to extract. On the contrary, Nami should be saving almost 100 million by now. If you can take on a private job and take out Long and his team, it would be reasonable to charge a commission. Hess's thoughts drifted for a moment, but he forgot to respond to Vivi. Mr. 11, when are we leaving? Vivi couldn't hold her breath and asked again loudly. Kahn sat by the window without looking up, constantly writing and drawing. Hess sighed inwardly. Did you see that in front of you are the top experts in the industry, who are undercover agents wandering around various forces and can still thrive like fish in water? You little girl's family is about to be exposed. Let's go now, old man. You also pay attention to your safety. Got it. Say hello to Dad, and Hess walked out without bowing. Let's be burdensome. Vivi is a beautiful woman of her size, and staying by her side to keep an eye is also good. In the future, she can also squeeze a sum of protection money from her father. Hey. Mr. 11, wait for me, Kalu, hurry up and follow him. Vivi didn't expect her partner to be so cold and aloof. She quickly threw her navy long hair and followed Hess with great enthusiasm, walking side by side with her. The next morning, the two people who were taking a water and land shuttle to and from Turtle Binky had arrived at the port of Rapeseed, where Baroque Studio ships were moored and would take them to Whiskey Mountain. Speaking of which, Baroque Studios is definitely a leading company in the bounty hunter industry. Although headquartered on the Great Route, the business is spread across all corners of the world, and Mr. 1 is a talent recruited from the West Sea. When launching the ideal township plan, Proctor mobilized dozens of large ships and purchased tens of thousands of weapons. All of these indicate that Baroque Studios is operating very well and is a well-paid owner. And Hess remembers clearly that Old Sha was underground at the Rain Banquet Casino, and Niobe roared that he didn't care about money, which was definitely the confidence of a dog tycoon. A poor person like Hess cannot say such words. So Hess decided to start from the grassroots and gradually erode the Baroque studio, striving to make Old Sha's property his first bucket of gold, treating him as his angel investor. The ship was sailing on the sea, and Hess also found it very novel. After all, it was his first time going to sea. The endless blue sea was refreshing and delightful, and from a distance, one could only feel the vastness of heaven and earth. However, just one day later, Hess grew tired of this monotonous blue and lay in the cabin unwilling to go out again. Vivi originally intended to establish a good relationship with Mr. 11 during the voyage. It's also good to take the opportunity to exchange ideas and gather information about Baroque Studios. But Hess stayed in the room all day and didn't give her a chance to meet. Vivi had also gathered the courage to knock on the door, but to her surprise, Mr. 11 didn't even let her in, so he dismissed her in just a few words. Dong dong dong, Mr. 11, are you busy? What's up? As partners, we haven't gotten to know each other well yet. No need, if you want to sleep, talk back. Vivi sat at the bow of the boat with her knees in her arms, her long hair cascading like a waterfall. A few strands were blown up by the sea breeze, and when she remembered her brief conversation with Mr. 11, she almost gritted her silver teeth in anger. In order to enhance her impression, she even put on light makeup that day, but to her surprise, Mr. 11 was completely lost in charm. Stinky man. What a stinky man. Unable to bear it for a moment, Vivi became increasingly angry as she played with the seashell in her hand, with a hint of worry in her eyes. I don't know how my father is doing, is Eikelum okay? It's been so long but I haven't made any progress. The rebel army's offensive is becoming increasingly fierce, and it's probably not long before war breaks out. Burying her head in her knee, Vivi struggled to hold back the tears in her eyes. Kalu, who was sleeping on the side, also woke up and spread his wings to embrace Vivi. The little duck also knew that its owner was not in a good mood, gaga 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 gaga. I know, Karu. I'm fine, everything will be okay. As she stroked the feathers of the Kalu duck, Vivi's heart gradually calmed down. She must uncover the mastermind behind the scenes and bring Alabastian back to peace. Hello, Mississippi Wednesday, how long until we get to Whiskey Hill? The sudden sound behind her startled Vivi, causing her to jump up in fear. Why do you walk without a sound? Vivi was a bit embarrassed and also a bit scared. She was in an enemy camp, surrounded by enemies. How could she relax her guard so much? Oh, there's a problem. Hess's face was indifferent, and his faint tone seemed incredibly powerful in Vivi's ears. No problem, it should arrive around this evening. Vivi's voice involuntarily weakened, like a doormat, clutching her fingers and standing obediently in place, not daring to look at Hess. Oh. That's great. The days on this ship are really tough. Upon hearing this, Hess was invigorated and even slept for a few days, causing his bones to crumble. Now he finally had the opportunity to move his muscles and bones. He stretched lazily in place, and Hess's bones all cracked and exploded. Cool. Hess let out a long sigh, with an inexplicable smile on his face, and sat directly at the bow of the ship. Hey, you. Seeing Hess occupying her position, Vivi muttered a few words, but ultimately didn't dare to say anything. After hesitating for a moment, she forced out a smile and tried to talk to her again. And the ship broke through the waves, getting closer and closer towards Whiskey Mountain. Chapter 8. Robbery time has arrived. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the evening, Whiskey Mountain was brightly lit. Under the leadership of Mr. 8, the flow of people converged towards the port. Today, it was not to slaughter the fat sheep pirates who had just entered the Great Route, but to welcome the new leaders of the company. They may not be able to fight, but they are definitely skilled in human relationships and worldly wisdom. A few bonfires were blazing in the open space behind the crowd, and the huge grilled meat exuded an enticing aroma. Barrels of wine were arranged neatly, like soldiers waiting for the general to review. At the forefront of the team are some young girls of appropriate age holding flowers. Clothing is also aimed at saving fabric and revealing large areas of white and greasy skin. Just wait for the leader to arrive, they will use their most tender and admirable gaze to sink them into this carnal paradise. Of course, all of this has nothing to do with Mr. 8, it's all the thoughts of the subordinates themselves. As the captain of the Alabastian Kingdom Guard, his ability to collude with these dirty bounty hunters is already his bottom line. How could there be such a dirty plan? It is definitely not to help Vivi clear the obstacles. As dusk grew, a ship hanging the flag of the Baroque studio slowly approached Whiskey Mountain. Well, well. Eikelum, with his peculiar curly hair, cleared his throat with a high-pitched singing voice, then adjusted his bow tie on his chest and said loudly, "Let's welcome Mr. 11. Oh, oh, oh. Mr. 11, welcome to Whiskey Mountain." The crowd burst into high cheers, and a few bounty hunters lit fireworks. Countless petals scattered from the sky, and the whole town became lively like a summer celebration. Hee, this scene is a bit interesting. Hess stood at the bow of the ship, looking at the scene with a smile on his lips, then moved his muscles and walked towards the bottom of the ship. "Mr. 11 is so handsome and strong, I really want to be ravaged. Mr. 11 is mine, no one should compete with me tonight." As soon as he stepped onto the land, Hess was instantly surrounded by warblers, birds, and swallows. A few delicate hands caressed Hess's chest, while another one went straight into the heavy ground without following the rules, even being secretly pinched twice by someone. Hess felt his arm wrapped in a soft ball and tried twice, but couldn't pull it out. Immediately, I couldn't help but be shocked. How could there be a strong opponent to compete with on this small Whiskey Mountain? Feel it carefully, the touch is soft and delicate, and cannot be covered by one hand. At least a 33D level strong person, the girl next to her moaned, her face flushed, and she leaned into Hesse's arms. "Pooh, big pervert." Behind her, Vivi glanced sideways and saw Hesse's unruly big hand spat in secret. She turned her head with a blush on her face, afraid of getting her eyes dirty. Well, well. Whiskey Mountain welcomes Mr. 11's arrival. We have prepared the banquet and we can discuss the work tomorrow. Eikelum welcomed her and secretly exchanged a glance with Vivi, intending to lead Hess into the small town. I'll just say a few words about it. The seal of the D.level powerhouse was too strong, and Hess struggled to pull out his arm. With a wave of his hand, the enthusiastic crowd also quieted down. Facing Eikelum's puzzled gaze, Hess smiled and said, "I'm a newcomer and I'm not very good at speaking. If there's anything wrong, please hold back." The first half of the sentence just made Eikelum relax, but hearing the last sentence made him suddenly turn pale, which is not the tone that a positive character should have. Yeah, now it's time for the robbery. If you don't want to die, just give me the money." Hess laughed heartily, with a crimson flame burning all over his body, slowly floating in mid-air. The scorching heat caused the crowd around to hastily retreat. In the dark night, Hess is like a sun, scorching the entire town recklessly. The weeds began to wither and the petals shed their moisture. The bounty hunters in the small town were thrown into the desert, with dry lips and curly hair. In just a moment, sweat soaked through their clothes and they began to experience dehydration. "Mr. 11, what do you want to do?" Unexpectedly caught off guard, Eikelum yelled fiercely at Hess. Even Vivi was full of confusion, unable to figure out how her partner would change her face. "What are you doing?" "I'm not very clear about not saying it, robbery." In the sky, Hess converged his radiance, no longer dazzling like the scorching sun. As he waved his arm, a fire ring enveloped the entire town. The scorching heat scorched the skin and flesh of some nearby people, causing them to scream in agony. The bounty hunters who were trying to escape also stopped and looked at the figure in mid-air in disbelief. Your approach will definitely attract the pursuit of an unlucky duo, and Baroque Studios won't let you go either. Below, Ikarum was still roaring, trying to show his strength and scare away Hess. "Humph, didn't you hear what I said? I really don't know how to kill people." Hess, however, ignored Eikelum and let out a cold snort. He raised 5 lines of fire in his palm and, accompanied by the sound of hunting wind, fiercely struck into the crowd. "Ah! It's so hot, so hot. Help me extinguish the fire. I don't want to die. I pay. The 3 bounty hunters couldn't dodge, and the flame whip was like a hot knife cutting through butter, cutting their bodies into several pieces. The instantaneous high temperature made their skin and flesh stick together, and the wounds were sealed before blood could spill. A few scattered sparks splashed and landed on the unlucky person. In the blink of an eye, a torch shaped like an adult was ignited, welcoming the end of life in love. This murderous appearance directly frightened Vivi, stiff and motionless. Icolum moved his body and quietly protected Vivi behind him. Overlooking the chaotic crowd below, Hess showed no mercy. These people claim to be bounty hunters, but in reality, they are all engaged in pirate activities. Killing people to steal goods is even more common. Killing all 100 people may be unjustified, but killing 9 out of 10 will definitely result in a missed catch. Their bottom line is not much higher than those heinous pirates, but fortunately Hess's bottom line is also very flexible. Free conscience, he just feels guilty about these people. Now, do you want money or life? As Hess asked, the bounty hunters in the small town dared not ignore him anymore. They hurriedly took out money from every corner of their bodies, and some even took off their clothes, checking over and over again, afraid of losing their lives. Go someone to collect it and bring it to me. Hezenunu's mouth fell to the side of the bonfire, and he ate grilled meat and drank alcohol as if no one was around. A few clever people immediately ran out, bent down to collect the money on the ground, and at the same time took off their clothes with only their shorts, to prove that they had absolutely not embezzled it. Sir, there are approximately 8.9 million Baileys here. I have approximately 7.6 million Baileys here. 9,300,000. 2.1 million. I have. A few unnamed bounty hunters ran to Hess, shaking their heads and tails, with a flattering expression almost like licking the soles of their shoes. Hey! Hess let out a sigh. It's really hard to earn money, and shit tastes bad. So many people in the entire town have only gathered around 55 million, not even enough to level up their skills. Hess pondered, it seemed that he still needed to find some way to make money. Chapter 9. Robin Helpless. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Damn it. What does robbery mean? It's not a transaction. Didn't they buy their lives from me? Those who didn't pay are all dead. How come this is not a transaction? Hess slammed the table and angrily cursed at the system. Several bounty hunters behind me turned pale and trembled with fear. Vivi stood on the side, hesitating to speak. Yes, those who didn't pay died, and she also belonged to the kind who paid. Hess cursed for a while but couldn't clear his grudge. He drank 2 barrels of rum before finally getting a little angry. I thought he could activate several skills with the money he earned based on his strength, even if the lottery was good, but I didn't expect that the system of this dog day would determine that the robbery proceeds cannot be recharged, which made Hess very angry. No matter how forceful and convoluted he is, the system refuses to change the settings. Let Hess completely lose his enthusiasm for work. After all, this is the stronghold of the robbers, and their biggest input is to rob the pirates who have just entered the Great Route. Their income cannot be recharged, which means they lose value to Hess. In the blink of an eye, a week has passed. Life is mediocre, and those pirates don't even need Hess to take action on weekdays. Only occasionally stronger miscellaneous fish, which bounty hunters couldn't handle, made Hess barely move his muscles and bones. Over the course of a week, Hess made 2 moves, namely an 8 million North Sea pirate and a 13 million West Sea pirate. One person punched each other, passing through the chest and walking very peacefully. This has brought the prestige of Hess to its peak in Whiskey Mountain. These villains wandering on the sea do not understand what awe is. The days of licking blood with their swords make them only recognize their fists, and whoever has the hardest fist is the boss. And coincidentally, Hess's fist was even harder. Ikaram, the Mr. 8, has been completely abandoned. Although it has the highest level in Baroque studios, the entire Whiskey Hill is still dominated by Hess. Even the only telephone worm that can contact Baroque Studios is now in Hess's hands. On the day he received the phone worm, Hess dialed towards the headquarters, and the person who answered was not surprising. His voice was cold with a slightly hoarse smoky charm, full of imperial sister charm. It was indeed Nicole Robin, the son of the devil. What kind of experience is it for your favorite figurine to become a real person with 100% fidelity? Anyway, Hess feels very motivated. He adheres to the principle of leaving traces in his work and reporting in a timely manner, reporting once a day on the first day of the lunar calendar and changing it to half a day after 3 days. And now, Hess rubbed his hands and sat on the sofa. It had been a full 2 hours and 30.2 minutes since the last time he reported work to Luoyugia. This boring life in Whiskey Mountain was only a little adjustment. Rainy ground, rain banquet casino underground. The hall is magnificent, with huge crystal chandeliers illuminating every inch of space. Behind the transparent glass curtain wall, a few banana crocodiles slowly swim. In the center of the hall is a long table, and the two figures are talking to each other. Bolu 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 bolu. On the long table, a telephone worm shook its body and kept making noises, reminding someone to call. The two stopped talking, and Nicole Robin lifted her head slightly, showing a helpless expression on her face. Why not answer? Clockter was holding a cigar, with a long scar across his face, and his tone was plain without any hint of joy or anger. With his right hand tapping on the table, he made a rhythmic thud sound, and his big back hair was neatly combed. Paired with a black fur coat, Clockdale exuded a mature mafia style all over his body. He trusts Nicole Robin's workability, but Clockdale always remains vigilant about her. After all, this woman is best at betrayal. Now Robin was clearly resisting the phone call, which made Crocodile instantly alert. Alabastian is on the brink of collapse, and the plan is about to come to an end. He does not allow any accidents. If Robin really has any ulterior motives, he will not hesitate to imprison him and kill him after translating the historical text. It's nothing, this is. Oh, forget it. Robin wanted to explain, but was momentarily speechless, so he simply broke the jar and picked up the phone worm. Miss All Sunday, I'm Mr. 11. A vicious incident just occurred at Whiskey Hill, where 2 million elders had a verbal altercation and escalated into a firefight. The situation was extremely dangerous and almost escalated into a group fight. Fortunately, I intervened in a timely manner. With my charismatic personality and sincere persuasion, both sides realized their mistakes and have now shook hands to make peace. Hess glanced at the $2 million elder standing against the wall, with bruises and swollen faces, and asked in a deep voice. You two must love and support each other in the future, only in this way can our Baroque studio have cohesion and invincible combat power. Remember that. Remember. We will definitely help each other. The eyes of 2 million elderly people who were beaten couldn't open, and upon hearing this, they quickly pounded their heads like garlic, afraid of being beaten again. They just had a few words of disagreement, but they were almost killed on the spot by Hess. Even if their descriptions were slightly different, they dared not have any further objections. Hess finally smiled with satisfaction and said, Miss, All Sunday Miss, the atmosphere at Whiskey Mountain is improving day by day under my leadership. We stay up all night and have nowhere to go. We are all half-brothers of different fathers and mothers. Nicole Robin only felt flustered with a toothache in her posterior groove. At first, she naively thought that Hess was really focused on his work, but later realized that this guy was just a gossip box, reporting big things over the phone. Clockter was overjoyed to see what was happening. From these fragments, he saw that Hess could speak, had consciousness, and was a skilled leader in leading the team. The ideal township plan lacked a person to coordinate the lower-level army. He really likes this kid. Not bad, Mr. 11. Work with peace of mind, Baroque Studios won't treat you unfairly. Clockdale answered the phone directly, his tone full of encouragement. Suddenly, Hess was a bit stunned by the sound. Why is Sha? Oh, isn't it right? Sha Gu is also beside him. There is no need to speculate at all. At this stage, the only one who can speak in this tone and be with Luo Yujie is undoubtedly the 7 martial Cs under the king. Proctor. He has also shown his face in front of the leader, right? Don't worry, boss. Our Baroque studio will definitely grow and become stronger under your leadership, and create new brilliance. Only by uniting under your banner can we have the opportunity to realize value. It is precisely with your guidance that we can no longer be confused. Hess flattered Lao Sha by directly hitting the snake and sticking his stick, and he was stunned. Old Sha, who had been going to sea since childhood, had little education and reached the peak of his career as the 7 martial Cs under the king. He began to hide his name and had a large number of subordinates, but few people knew about his existence. How could it be that Robin, a woman who doesn't speak or smile, could flatter him? So Hess's flattery made him feel an extremely novel experience. Cough. Lao Sha coughed lightly twice, and just as he was about to have another episode with Hess, he heard a roar coming from across from the phone worm. Mr. 11, pirates have landed in the town and they are still bombing with artillery. Hess's door was pushed open, and a billionaire elder rushed to report that thick black smoke could be faintly seen rising from outside. Don't worry, boss. They are all small characters, and I will definitely not tarnish the reputation of our Baroque studio. This battle is bound to be won brilliantly and happily. Well, not bad. Hezei made a solemn statement and hung up the phone without waiting for Clodel to finish speaking. Rain banquet underground. Lao Sha stared at the busy phone worm. How could he hang up before he even had enough time to flatter him? The feeling of being constantly busy was really unbearable. Turning his gaze to Robin beside him, Lao Sha remained silent but seemed to have said everything. Robin didn't look at him at all. What's going on these days? If I had known, I wouldn't have come to this lascivious studio. Chapter 10. The Attack of the Crick Pirates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hanging up the phone, Hess sank into the sofa again, leaving no trace of his impassioned expression. Hess waved his hand and casually said to the billions of elders reporting. You guys hold on for now. If you can't hold on anymore, come find me again. It's not surprising that Hess is not interested. As one of the 7 essential routes of a great voyage, it's normal for a battle to occur on Whiskey Hill. As a leader, if you have to take care of everything, what is the meaning of climbing up? Of course, if there is something to do, you have to do it with the people below. He usually helps to clear the route for the secret books that are protruding and backward. Sir, we really can't withstand it anymore. Many brothers have died. They have a fleet of dozens of ships, and now they have all attacked the town. The billionaire elder was about to cry, his legs almost limping into noodles, completely scared out of his wits. Hey, it's really troublesome. Killing people doesn't earn any money, so I work for nothing every day. Hess still looked disinterested, but he stood up and planned to eliminate this group of inexperienced pirates. Luck is also a part of the great voyage, and if you blame this pirate group for their bad luck, they will only stop here when they encounter him. The speaker was unintentional, while the listener was intentional. The billions of elders who reported suddenly felt blessed and quickly added. Sir, there is a bonus for Baroque Studios recruitment. If one person is recommended to join, there will be 100,000 Bailey. This pirate group has thousands of people. If they can all capture and join us, then the bonus. The words of billions of elders are not finished, but they are enough to arouse imagination. Sure enough, Hess's eyes were shining, his face full of excitement, murmuring calculations. One person is 100,000, 1,000 people are. It's 100 million Bailey. Your Excellency. Hess glanced at this guy and punched him directly on the head, angrily saying, why didn't you tell me earlier? How many pirates have been released during this time? That's all my money. Billions of elderly people cover their heads, their faces full of grievances. Sir, although there is a bonus, bringing unfamiliar pirates into the team requires us to be vigilant and guard against them on a daily basis. It may even lead to rebellion, and a stronghold was recently destroyed as a result. But you are different. With your strength, you are enough to suppress them, and no one can resist. This sentence is truly sincere. In their eyes, the powerful 10 million level pirate couldn't make a move in Hess's hands, but Hess didn't care what this guy said later, his prize money was all over his eyes. Jia, pirates, prepare to enter Lousy's pocket. Don't even think of running away today. Hess had a bright smile on his face and strode out of the room. At first glance is a vast fleet of continuous artillery, roaring with dozens of guns, blasting out a barrage of steel bullets. The bounty hunters of Whiskey Mountain are mostly ordinary people who rely on their numerical advantage to eat small groups of pirates. However, they are unable to form effective resistance against fleets that are several times larger than their own. The battle was chaotic, and not far away, Ikaram's curly hair revealed a machine gun. A continuous barrage of bullets was shot out, and the pirates in front of him fell one after another like cutting wheat. However, as the pirates continued to pour in, Ikaram had to use cover to launch an attack. Vivi was beside her, spinning the peacock chain in her hand, using her tail finger ring to control the blade and kill the pirate who was trying to approach. The Kalu duck quaked in terror, its small black eyes observing the surroundings, with a posture of pulling Vivi up and running when the situation was unfavorable. The pirate ship at the port kept jumping off the pirates, roaring and rushing into the town. A figure wrapped in a shield, rushing forward like a tank, caught Hess's attention. I saw that guy not dodge or dodge the attack, even the house couldn't withstand his impact. Wherever he passed, his body kept throwing and he struggled to make a way. Suddenly, a stray bullet hit the gap in his armor, and bright red blood oozed out. The shield figure seemed to be stimulated and began to ignite a pale blue flame all over, going crazy like a mad cow. Even dogs don't eat roasted fruits, and even a miscellaneous fish can be easily cooked and ignited. Seeing this, Hess's old tongue is really not spitting out. He had already recognized that the shield man was under Crick's command, the East China Sea hegemon who was hunted down and directly annihilated after seeing Eagle Eye rowing with a black knife at night. Sure enough, the strongest mysterious person Ajin is also here. On the other front line, Ajin held a pair of crutches with iron balls attached, his messy hair and beard, and the deep black circles around his eyes, making it impossible to see that he was a guy with the title of Ghost. Every time a mysterious person who doesn't show up appears, there will always be someone guessing Ajin below the comments. From General Green Bull, 3 General Star Katakuli, to Flying 6th Cell Puzpu, even the vacant seats at the Revolutionary Army meeting are speculated to be reserved for Ajin. In reality, Ajin's moves were deadly, and the double crutch dance was impenetrable. The bounty hunter in front of him couldn't even escape, as his crutches shattered his brain and bones, leaving behind a bloody and muddy path. Reality is really not a manga. In the first half of the chapter, Pirates, the strongest weapon was actually the staircase that killed Gu Yaina. Those bullets, artillery fire, and gas never killed a person, but now at least dozens of people have died in just a short while. Hess was somewhat moved, and old thief Oda would only pick out some beautiful scenes to paint. But reality is much more cruel. Alright, it's time to end now too. Hess no longer goes to the theater, he feels heartbroken every time these pirates die. The flower state slowly emerged from his waist, and Hess's determination to hone his swordsmanship never subsided. He just started with the long sword, and Hess felt that it was a bit too high. The system says it doesn't work, but I think it works. Flames of crimson burst out all over his body, and Hess suddenly stepped out. The ground under his feet cracked inch by inch, and he was shot at the shield man like a shell. Boom! The fist collided with the shield, and Pei Ruo's unstoppable and powerful force instantly shattered the shield. The shield man's chest visibly sank, and his broken internal organs kept gushing out of his mouth, reaching the brink of death. The collapsed ground was like the bottom of an inverted bowl, and Hess slowly emerged from it, leaving the entire battlefield in silence. I was careless. I agreed to use a sword, but this guy actually punched me with his chest. It's really not about martial arts. Hess looked regretful, and his sword was indeed handsome. But he still likes to punch recklessly. Looking at Hess slowly approaching, Ah Jin's face darkened and he stepped back slightly, showing a cautious posture. However, his pupils had already shrunk into a needle-like shape. Hess gradually approached, even though there was no hint of killing intent, Ah Jin could still feel the pressure of a mountain-leaning tsunami. Sweat constantly seeped out of the forehead, and the clothes were soaked as if they had just been taken out of the water. The completely tense strings suddenly broke, and Ah Jin could no longer resist his inner fear. With a roar, he rushed towards Hess. If he didn't attack again, he might not even have the courage to take action. Ghost Man Warfare. Here we go, Captain Ah Jin's ultimate move. Haha, this guy is doomed. The onlookers were relieved and cheered dryly. The pressure brought by Hess was only a hint, but it still made them feel extremely scared. It was only after seeing Ah Jin take action that they slightly calmed down. Just now they really thought they would die here. Hess looked coldly at the attacking Ah Jin, feeling that his movements were incredibly slow. Seeing and hearing the powerful aura dissipate, Hess was well aware of every move around him. With a single sword, Hua Zhou danced gracefully like a butterfly, shaving the flesh and blood off Ah Jin's hands. The pale bones deeply hurt the eyes of the surrounding pirates. How could this be? Dreaming. Yes. I must be dreaming. Ha ha ha, someone come and hit me quickly. I want to wake up, I want to wake up. Ah. A heart-wrenching scream rang out, and Ah Jin trembled as he raised his hands, 10 fingers connected to his heart, crazily tearing at his nerves with pain beyond the limits of human endurance. Hess kicked it down with one kick, and Hua Zhou hung upside down. Without hesitation, he inserted it into Ah Jin's mouth and directly nailed it to the ground. Get it done. It's your boss's turn now. Hess patted the dust on his hands and slowly walked towards the flagship in a fearful gaze.